kind of pushing things a bit.
He definitely did that with Matt's mom.
Yeah, it's great. He pushed my mom right over.
Gotcha.
He used every inch he took that mile.
Yep. I'm assuming they didn't reinforce anything.
No, we didn't teach her how to use the e-collar or anything.
Yep.
I guess that's one of our questions, that if Gilmore's in the care of others,
Sure.
what's the best way to like,
Handle it.
yeah.
So there's no real right or wrong.
Gilmore, no.
Hi. Yep. There you go. It's up to you if you want them
Okay.
to. It doesn't affect your training if they don't.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the thing about the way that I teach the e-collar, is that it's, so people travel, things like that, friend or family member watching the dog, and they don't reinforce anything, but they never forget. So
Okay.
dogs are like kids, they learn by association. So, when it was with your mom, correct? Yeah. She'll learn like, oh, when I'm with grandma, she doesn't use the collar, I can get away with stuff.
Just like kids. Yeah.
Exactly. And then once you get him back, you'll find in the beginning, he's gonna be in that, mental state of like, I got away with stuff.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you kick him with this, 15 minutes in, you go to the appropriate level, boom, all of a sudden he remembers everything.
Right.
So they
Okay.
never forget. So, I've trained dogs for rescues, and I'll give them back and say like, the training's gonna go to crap, don't worry about it, tell me when they get adopted, I'll work with the family. 6 months, year later, whatever, dog's there, it's a wreck. I start with heel, put the remote on, all that stuff,
Right away.
within 10 to 15 minutes, boom, comes
Okay.
right back. Now, certain things won't be perfect, but all of a sudden the dog is very obedient again because we're at it always just comes down to the number, So you might find like, let's say his typical number is like 60, but then after you pick him up from, Max Mom's, maybe it's 75 for like the first 10 minutes, and then he settles in, then it's back down to 60,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, that
Um,
sounds good.
If they reinforce things, it's great because dogs, like for humans, like everybody has the same laws, where there's no real exceptions. For dogs, it's the same thing. Ideally, if everybody teaches them the same, it makes everything very consistent.
Okay.
Otherwise, not the worst thing in the world. The only time I really care is if the dog has any like real not strict, but like behavioral issues.
Yeah.
Like aggression, reactivity, things like that. Where I'll tell the owner like absolutely anyone who interacts with that dog, we want to be on the same page because that'll just ensure the success and all that stuff.
I think I'd still want to probably reinforce it with the heel on her because like my mom's not that big. She's like 5'1".
Sure. Sure.
He's pretty strong. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for when it does come to other people and what they should learn, the foundation is always the heel.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to teach, and it transfers very quickly. So as long as your mom went to the appropriate number,
Yeah.
everything that Gilmore knows should just transfer over.
Okay.
The problem that you may have is that human can then feel bad, right? And she's like, oh, because she's gonna think 80, because remember when
Yeah.
the park with
Yeah.
the squirrels and stuff, I think we're at like 85, 80,
Yeah.
90 or something.
Yeah. I think
Like,
she
she
got
hasn't-
100 that day.
Yeah, she hasn't seen that yet,
Yeah.
or that I would assume. So logically, when you say like, oh, his number is 80 out of 127, the person who's just getting into it goes, what? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Logically, so that's the hard part. But technically, if you just hand everything over, go do this and do this, boom, right away everything transfers over very easily. Okay, it's just the component of the human going to a level needed.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else?
No.
I think that was just the main question is like, and like, so it's gonna be the same kind of way, like next time we drop him off, even after like weeks of training, they'll just be like, because like he knows he could take that
Yes.
handshake.
Yeah, just like with kids.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, I knew with my grandma, I would get away with stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also learned that when I was with my mom and my grandma, I would do something and my mom would try to discipline me. My grandma would be like, oh no, leave him alone, he's just a kid.
It's just,
Yeah.
And then,
It's just
I remember
another
seeing
thing.
my mom get so frustrated, because like, how can mom argue with their mom?
Right.
But, dogs have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4 year old child.
Yeah.
So that's why I gauge everything, right? So like, when people comment on like, people want to touch my dog, but my dog is like fearful, nervous, or whatever, but I feel bad telling people no, I'm like, well, look at it this way. If your dog has a learning capacity of a 3 or 4 year old child, we'll look at them that way. Would you let your 3 to 4 year old child just let anybody touch them? Go up to them, have them go up to those
Yeah.
people, have them jump on people's laps, have them yelling at, a lot of times, no. I'm like, this is the same thing for your dog, right? I get the same rules.
Okay.
So just whenever you're kind of questioning something like, should I allow or not allow, whatever, I just look at it as, what I let a 6-4-year-old child do this.
Okay.
And then I'll kind of help you make your decision, okay?
That helps. Yeah, I think I'd definitely love to go on a walk with her and then associate her with him with.
Yeah, and she's
Collar.
welcome to join in too in a session, or sessions, I don't care. Anybody that would be handling Gilmore is more than welcome to join in.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, it shouldn't, the main thing should be the leash walking. Recall would be great, once we start teaching that, and then, it's just correcting things really,
Okay.
are the most important things. Everything else is kind of superficial unless she's like really wanting to learn everything about Gilmore, then I'll say then, absolutely, just teach everything.
Maybe we bring her in, maybe one of the later ones, but she's kind of far.
I think we could just take her for a walk too, but yeah, she's
Yeah.
definitely.
Where's she stay at?
She's in Lake Villa, so that's like
Gray's
near the
Lake, yeah,
Wisconsin
that area.
border.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they're far.
Yeah.
Usually Gray's Lake like strikes with everybody.
Yeah, but they're the primary watchers of him, like when we go out of town and stuff. So we just thought it would be good for her to
Yeah, for
maybe
sure.
learn or like just ask the question of how
Yeah,
do we handle him.
my dad, like he's completely like normal. It's just my mom because like she's so small and.
Yeah, for sure. And you can always send the videos, just go to my channel.
that's
Gilmore, and then,
That's
She'll probably watch all of them.
I know
It's
she
funny.
would. She would.
a few of my clients' parents, like, they love watching the videos of their
Uh-huh.
dog learning and stuff. It's so funny. And like, so that's where all the views are coming from.
Yeah.
So,
Your mom would.
She would watch it. She'd probably share it too.
Yeah.
anything else with this guy?
No.
No, he's been really good.
Okay. Since it was like raining out and stuff, obviously we're here, and I figured we do something more indoorsy,
Okay.
like in terms of command. Next time, hopefully everything is nice weather, we could be back out. We'll start with recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
On call stuff. But this one is something that you can do now that fall apparently is just all of a sudden. I felt
Seriously,
like,
overnight.
yeah, I know exactly. I woke up and I was like, the windows were open, so it was like super cold. I'm like,
Mhm.
what happened?
I know. It's
Um,
nuts.
So there's kind of like the trifecta of commands. One is the heel,
Yeah.
the next is return to me, and the other is go here, don't move. Okay, so that's like the real basic foundation in terms of what dogs need. Then there's more specific ones like sit, don't move, lay down, don't move. So we have the 6 commands are sit, down, place, come, heel, and stay. Those are like the 6 family pet standard commands. The 3 that I really focus on is place, recall, and heel. Those tend to be the most used or most functional. The other ones are functional as well, but people don't really use them as much as those. So I typically prioritize those, and if they want to learn more, then of course we teach all the other stuff as well. So are you guys familiar? And feel free to have a seat if you'd like.
Okay.
The place command. Are you familiar with it at all?
So we watched the cat video.
Yeah, we
Oh,
watched
yeah,
that
yeah,
entire. We
So,
watched the entire cat
I
video.
remember the whole German Shepherd place thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So the way he was applying it there in my book is not correct.
Right.
Okay. And there's actually I have another client. Her dog does daycare and training with us, and she saw that video too. Because she has a cat, and of course her dog is, training with us during daycare, and she was like, can you clarify for me, like, what the difference is? And I was like, well, with your cat, you're wanting coexistence, like any other
Mhm.
home. But when you do control, the dog may be fine, and the cat's walking around, but then as soon as you release the dog, prey drive kicks in or whatever, right? And I go, and that's what we're trying to create is that harmony. So what I told her to do was, get a muzzle. That it's just the safest way to approach it. Muzzle the dog, put the leash on, have the e-collar on, and then let them coexist. And I think she tried it, and she's like, he didn't even like care for
Yeah, he doesn't
the cat.
even care.
Yeah.
And I go, that's good. That's what we want. And then they might become buddy, where they just might have a coexistence. I'm here, you're there type of
But
relationship.
she's not growling at him anymore. At
Yeah,
this point.
the cat growls or like motors at him. He doesn't do anything.
Sure.
Like he'll just like look at us like, what is that thing growling at me right now?
Sure, and then like let's say she did that and he went and approached her just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
and she swatted at him. All of a sudden, that growl is now empowered by that physicality.
Mhm.
So that's why when I get clients with puppies and they have cats, I'll tell them just let the puppy be a puppy as long as it's not prey driven, and let the cat correct the puppy, because they don't, as they grow, when that relationship is established, the dog's not thinking, ha ha ha, I'm bigger now, I can take you on. The
Right.
dog just thinks, man,
I don't want to get swatted.
yeah, exactly. Like they're not self-aware about that's why Chihuahuas, like my Chihuahua can bully my pit bull. And my Chihuahua's 8 pounds to her 60, so she'll be with the bone and he'll literally walk up to her, grab the bone and walk away, and she's just like, kind of looks around like, how'd that happen, you know?
Yeah.
So it's all about energy and presence, but yeah, it's good,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, we've had some good interactions this week. We've kind of let the baby gate open a little bit more and
Mhm.
kind of have that, let Gilmore kind of come into her space.
Mhm.
And she always goes into his space when he's gone. Like when he's on walk, she'll come out.
Sure,
So we've had a good week. I
We
think.
have a moving this weekend too, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're moving,
kinda.
so now they're both gonna coexist in our new place.
oh, I
They
see.
don't-
So we have a muzzle too, so we're gonna
Yeah.
like give it for a couple days, like muzzle and keep attention to him, have the e-collar on.
Sure,
But yeah.
and then just every 2 hours, remember to rotate it because of
Yeah.
pressure sores.
Okay,
If it happens, like, all it is from 2 things poking in the neck. It's not from stim or anything like that.
okay,
So like the fur will, it'll fall off and it'll scab, but then it heals up, the fur grows back, it's perfectly fine.
okay,
But if you rotate every 2 hours, then you don't have to worry about
okay.
that, okay? Anything else?
No, ready to get started.
All right, so we're gonna start with place command, very simple. Now, the way that I teach it is a bit different than other trainers. I, of course, always wanna teach things through pressure first. I want the dog to figure it out and then we'll title it. And it's like the easiest command to teach, okay?
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you with Gilmore, you probably start about here. You're gonna short your leash. Okay?
So you're right.
Like you can buy this handle here. And what you're gonna do is, what's your number set at the moment?
I am at 52.
52. Okay, let's go ahead and go down to 35, 30, because we're teaching something new. And whenever we teach something new, we always want to go down lower.
Good boy.
Is what we're gonna do is you're gonna start with a little bit of light pressure going towards the placemat as you're remoting. Tap, 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 and stop, and relax. Good. So the leash tension, tap, tap, good, is to guide them towards this is where we want you to go. And you can relax the leash then right there. There you go, good.
Good boy.
Is you're guiding them going, I need you to go to this object, right?
Yeah.
Now, other dogs, because he climbed right over it when I went to the other side, so clearly he's not like apprehensive of it. But like other dogs will go like this, and they'll put the brakes on, and they don't want to go on there. So then we end up compensating with more physical, because it's a mental boundary or barrier of them like in an unfamiliar object. But for him, just a light bit of pressure, like 2 to 3 taps, I think is what I heard, and he hopped on. And then once he gets on, everything turns off. So then he's thinking, oh, if I go here, this goes away. But then he kind of overshot it, got excited, crossed over here, Matt gave a couple of taps, and then he retracted back onto the area.
Okay.
So what you did there was essentially teach him, when I send you here, you're gonna go there and you're not gonna get off prematurely, okay? And we're doing this all to pressure, and we're gonna repeat this a few times until we get a really solid kind of understanding, and then we're gonna start adding in the word of place, okay?
Okay.
Questions so far?
So with the race surface you're mentioning, like with my car, like he hates getting in the car.
Oh, sure.
It's like not, I feel like that's the only dog I ever had that like just not like getting in the car.
Mhm.
So with the race surface, like same thing, like we would tap until he gets in the car and then.
Correct, so like you open the door, right, you go like this, light pressure, you get
Yeah.
the brakes, okay? And then they start texting, 30, 35, 40, 45, and then you're gonna start to see them do this. Okay, they'll start going backwards. 50, 55, you might start seeing bucking around, because leash tension and remote is saying go in,
Yeah.
brain is saying I don't wanna go in, so you're getting resistance. But everybody has a breaking point. Then, I don't know, maybe you hit 60 and all of a sudden he jumps in there, and then you relax and you stop the remoting. Okay, so it's a mental boundary. So like dogs that don't like swimming, or scared of pools, or scared of the water, whatever, it's the same exact thing.
He tries to eat the water, so.
It's not a problem here.
Yeah.
I do the exact thing of where if I'm trying to get the dog to jump in the pool, it's just a little bit of pressure and I keep increasing the remote, so the dog goes fine, they'll jump, and they go in, and then now that that resistance is over, it allows them to actually open up and enjoy the pool, okay? If the dog has any kind of separation, not separation, any kind of anxiety, like in the car, which can sometimes happen,
Mhm.
like that little exercise of them putting themselves in the car can sometimes settle or resolve it. So like if they get really edgy and they're like whining and barking and stuff, and the people, because the dog's saying from the get-go, I don't want to go in. And it sounds stupid, but if you pick a dog up and you place them into something like a crate or a car, they don't know how they got
It's
there.
not their choice, yeah.
Yeah, so they're in there going like, why am I in here? I don't want to be in here. And then that stress starts to build up. So then when you use remote and Gilmore actively decides to go in, it can settle those stress levels and then we may not see the escalation of anxiety.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, that makes sense.
Other questions?
No, I think that's like the only time I've ever experienced like trouble with place. Like he's usually pretty good at staying. I've been trying to train him on patience, like when with his food and everything. So.
Oh, sure, like waiting for it and all that? Yeah, yeah. So here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna repeat that same exercise that you just did, and you're gonna do it about, 1 to 2 squares back. If Gilmore prematurely goes, you're just gonna pull him back, no remoting, just pull him back, and then wait a moment, start with the tapping and a little bit of leash pressure until we get him to go there. We'll wait a moment, break, and then move around, come back, a couple of squares away, same thing, remoting a little bit until he sends. Okay? Are you ready?
Okay, one.
Yeah. Right there. Good boy.
Good boy.
Break.
So should I just like break and then walk away?
Break, and then you can either reverse or walk. And sometimes, so after we do this so many times,
Yeah.
he's gonna probably start becoming
So
apprehensive.
shall I let go of the leash at this point? Or?
Keep the leash,
I'll keep
because
it.
it's gonna help you direct them off.
Okay.
In the beginning, we always do things on the leash, because sometimes if the dog makes a mistake and you try to correct them, they'll start going like all over the place. So it gives you that control if needed, okay? Yeah. Right there. Very good.
Good boy. Break.
Just 2 more.
Good boy.
Very good.
Good boy. Break.
Try it from this, the other
As
side.
far. Okay. Come on. What's going on here?
Yeah. There you go.
Good boy.
All right, we're gonna pause right there. So he kind of scattered a bit, right? But all the other ones were great. Do you have any idea why?
Was it my leash pressure?
Mm-mm. Well, maybe a little bit,
Yeah.
but there's another possible reason why.
Did
He's
you
trying
not
to-
slow down?
No, it wasn't that. Okay, we're good.
Was he trying to eventually like buck it, like he's sick and tired of it, or?
Mm-mm. So for dogs, and these are all the guesses, if you practice something the same way, right, repeatedly for days and stuff, you create that habit. And then one day, you try it from here, and it's out of the dog's element, and they act like they don't know what's going on. So the reason why I said go over here now is because your dogs interpret things by the way the world looks within that moment. And you might think, if I tell them the place, whether it's here to here, to, any direction, it just means go to the spot. Gilmore doesn't, right? So since all of them were like, for the most part, coming from that direction, and then we just switched it over to that one, and then, because he went that way, then this way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that?
Oh, okay,
Right?
yeah.
He's already, and every dog's different, it's not common, but like formulating a pattern, and you're trying to teach them that place really just means go be here from any direction. It doesn't have to be a specific way,
Okay.
okay? So now what we're gonna do for the next batch is same thing, but now you're gonna start exactly moving around from different areas. We'll still keep it at that 2 square mark, but to start getting them used to sending from different areas.
Break.
He looks like he's about to fall
I
asleep.
know, he looks so tired.
There you go, very good. Yeah, boy.
Break.
1 more. Good.
Break.
Did you tap it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good boy.
Couple more. Right.
No tap on that one.
1 tap?
No, I didn't tap.
There was no tap?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna have you do is, because he's starting to assume, is you'll come to a stop and
Just tap.
restrict him,
Yeah.
and then wait a moment, because we wanna make sure it's the tap that's creating the response of running towards the placemat.
Break.
Not anybody.
Good boy.
Very good.
Didn't have to tap there either.
Oh, you did it? It was just the leash pressure?
No, just a leash.
Okay, cool. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it.
Okay.
Not because we want the remote, right? It's gonna do same exact thing, except before your leash pressure kicks in, you're gonna start tapping a couple of times, 2 to 3, and see if he goes with just the taps. If we get no response on the taps, then as you're tapping, you'll kick in with leash pressure.
Great. Good boy.
There you go.
Good boy. Great. I was tempted on the leash pressure there.
There. Good.
Boy.
Better.
Good boy.
Just 3 more.
Come break.
Good. Yeah, boy.
Good boy.
2 more.
Break.
There it
Good
is.
boy.
Good. As you're at 35, right?
30 so.
Let's go down to 22.
Go, break.
And 1 more.
Come on.
There you go.
Come on, buddy. Break.
Good.
I kind of did my arm gesture.
I saw a little bit, but there was no tension technically.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pause right there. Okay. So do you know why we went down to 22?
Just because he doesn't need as much of a.
Yeah, it's getting pretty easy, right? But then on that last one, there was a little bit of a pine, and I started to see him get a little bit more fidgety. Okay. So when we do stationary commands, we almost always go down really low and work our way up. But since I'm familiar with Gilmore, and I was like, he's a little bit more of a resilient dog, I didn't go back down as much. But as soon as I recognize, hey, he's getting really sensitive, is I go down lower, because if you're too high for creating a stationary command, dogs are more likely to hop out of it
Okay.
because they're edgy from all the power. So then I go roll low, and then he settled that when he actually is a little bit more relaxed here. So what I liked is on a couple of them, you just tapped once or twice and he just shot forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting the concept of, in this picture, when I feel remote means to go to this placemat in front of me, okay? So the way he interprets what the remote means depends on what everything looks like within that time. So right now, when he's standing next to you and there's a bed in front of him, and he feels the tap, his assumption is, I'm probably gonna have to go to this area, because that's what's turned it off for the last 10 minutes, right? So we just keep building that familiarity, and then, we'll put a name on it, and then you keep practicing, and then you start to blend things together, so then the dog starts to differentiate between heel, place, and come, and all the other stuff. Any questions so far with this?
No, makes sense.
So there's 2 components to this command. One is the send, which is what we're working on now. We're trying to get that as easy as possible. Then the next component is the, okay, go here and don't move for a period of time, okay? Here at the facility, when we do place command, like you'll see, on our Instagram, we post up pictures and stuff like that of dogs, and you'll see dogs on these exact placemats outside in the open area and stuff like that, because we practice their duration control.
Yeah.
So it's not just play all day. It's, there's some training involved.
Mm-hmm.
They go for a walk. They play, with the other dogs, and there's a balance of structure throughout the day. So it's kind of like kids, right?
Yeah.
Back when I was in, school, like we would learn for like the first 3 or 4 hours, then we'd have lunch, and then recess or whatever, and then it'd be more learning, and then we were done, right? So it's kind of the same thing here. So here when we do the duration stuff, right off the bat, when we teach a dog how to go to place, we start doing 2 to 3 hours day 1, okay? Now they make a lot of mistakes, but once we teach the concept of you go here, and then we're teaching the concept of now you don't move, right off the bat, you can do any length of time that you're wanting. We're just expecting that we're gonna get mistakes in the beginning, okay? So here, this exercise, because he's picking it up so quickly, you're probably going to progress, like not do this for very long. Then I would just go to application. Okay, so like this here, I would do 2 times a day. If you each did a session, 2 to 3 minutes, and you would teach it to the level that you need it to be. So for most people, sending a dog to place from like around this distance is pretty standard. Okay. Every now and then I get a client that wants to place the dog from like anywhere within the home. They want to send their dog from upstairs, from downstairs, from the kitchen, you know, from whatever. And oh, that's fine. You just have to build up to that, right?
Okay.
Because everybody's life with the dog looks different. So the way we start progressing is we were doing 2 squares back, and then we just start to work that distance further and further.
Yeah.
What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to release Gilmore, and I'm going to have you start sending now from, since he's doing pretty good, we're going to try from like 4 squares back. Now when you do this, you're going to try to not move forward, okay? So the reason why I'm not doing that is because that's how most trainers teach it, is they say place as they walk the dog to the place back.
Okay.
Is it becomes a part of the command, and then the person or trainer is always having to do this every time they send their dog, and I'm very much I say it and you do it, okay?
Yeah.
So earlier when we did this and we started remoting with leash pressure, we were making Gilmore figure out what do I need to do to get this to turn off, and it's real simple because he's just right here, right? Go from here to there, and then goes away. So once he figured that out, he pushed it further. We're going to push it further again. So then you'll be choking up on your leash while the handle is fine. You're going to start remoting again. And then after a couple of taps, if we get no response, you may have to do this where you'll stretch out, but you're keeping your feet here, okay, to get Gilmore to send at a greater distance.
And while I'm doing that, do I have tension on it, or?
Correct, right?
So I do have tension?
Yeah, so you're remoting first to see if maybe he can do it himself, okay? He probably won't because it's too big of a gap. So then, you know, if I'm choked up here and they go, okay, he's not getting it, then I add in the leash tension and I'll stretch out as much as I need to. I'm just trying to refrain from doing this, okay?
Leading him, yeah.
Yeah, so then if that happens, like let's say you get stuck, he's not getting it, it's okay if you take a step, but I'm just making it really slow so I don't become, you know, the whole part of the command itself.
Break, buddy. Come on, break.
I know, it's enjoying it too.
Come on. Let's go around the other side.
Yeah.
I didn't even do it.
So if you're going to pull him towards you?
Okay, so like keep tension that time?
Yeah,
Come on.
okay. This happens all the time. Yeah, you know, pause right there, wait a moment. Okay. Now.
Tap.
Yeah. Yeah. Now a little bit of leash pressure as we tap. There we go. Very good. And boy, tap. Now you're going to use counter pressure to direct them that way. You got it. That's good. Yep. Right there. Good. Good. So he shoots there, and then he's like, Mom, right?
I know.
So then you were correct, right? You tried to counter him going this way, but then he thought to come back to you, and then you just shorted it, and you went like this, and then finally he goes forward, okay? But you're just refraining as much as possible from helping him the entire way, so that was actually good, okay? Let's try 4 more like that.
Come on, break. Come on.
Break, break, break. Yeah.
Is he too far away from it?
He's okay.
Come on, buddy.
And you're at 22, right?
Yes.
So let's go down to 16. Go down a little bit more. Oh,
That's not what we're trying to do, bud.
yeah, okay.
Okay, right.
Did you ever hit
Okay.
anything?
No, he's assuming.
He doesn't want to get shot.
Yeah. Wait a moment, yeah.
Good boy.
Yep, that's good. A little better. A
Go.
little less edgier on the send there. And if he keeps going with this forging, right, because he's learned this pattern, and this is very common with like anxious type dogs, is once they pick up on the pattern, they just like kind of overcompensate, so like bulldoze through things. is if that doesn't resolve itself, then what I'll do is when he goes prematurely, I'll remote him to come off and back to me, and then wait a moment, and then remote to send him.
Okay.
Which does cause some confusion, right? Because it's like you went from don't go there to go there.
Yeah.
But we just clarify by, using a bit more tension. So then he learns like, oh, it's not that I'm not supposed to go there, it's that I'm supposed to go there when they tell me to go there. Okay?
Okay, we're break. Come on.
There you go. Good. Now relax. Wait a moment. Yeah, good.
Good boy.
Yeah, boy.
Break.
Yeah,
Come on, buddy.
He's like,
good.
I'm over this.
There you go. There you go. We're gonna do 3 more. Yeah, relax. Maybe. Yep. Yep. Very good. There it is. There you go. Good. 2 more.
Break. Come on. Come on, boy. Come on.
Yeah, boy.
I didn't tap it all up.
So go ahead and
I'll
push
check
back.
stop it, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and ruin it back. Yep. Good job.
You're learning a pattern, buddy.
Now leash pressure. Yep. There. Nice.
Good boy. Break. Come on.
And last one.
Poor Gilmore.
Come on, buddy.
He's really showing off his stubbornness today.
Right. Good job. There he goes. Yeah, good. And we're gonna pause there. Okay. Go ahead and feel free to have a seat while he's playing here. All right. So here, the way we're practicing this is just to teach the behavior, which is why I progress real quickly from this, because as you can see, he's just anticipating, right? And the reason why he's becoming resistant is because he knows he's just gonna go right back there again. So in order to avoid that process, just don't move. Okay, so it's the pro to it is that he is starting to understand and know, like, oh, okay, tap means to go here, no move, which is good. The con is, well, then when you release him, he's like, no, like I don't want to do this, right? So once I feel like the dog has mastered or got a really good concept of, placing tap means to go here, I go stop practicing it that way, and I just go to application. Okay. Because what creates this anxiety and this like intensity of go is the fact that we keep repeating it. Okay. So dogs progress really fast. So me personally, like if I was working with the dog and I saw this, I go, okay, cool, I don't need to do this anymore. I can just start applying it and I know how to fix it as we go along.
Yeah.
For you guys, for a couple of days, I'd still do this. Again, just 2 times a day, 2 to 3 minutes, really short, just to make sure we got a good concept of it. And then the application of it, you can do from day 1. They go side by side. You don't have to do one and then you start the other, which is why we're doing this here, right? So we did a couple of sends and breaks. But if I keep that pattern, then we might build the habit of I go here and then I get off right away. So that's why I like to intermittently stop with the send and let him be there. So now he's learning like, oh, okay, it's not always a go here and then get off right away. Sometimes it's a go here and don't move, okay? So place command is the most lenient of the stationary commands. A down command would be like that. You lay down and it's very specific looking. sit very much the same, put your butt down, don't move, very specific. Place is simply go here and don't move. So he can sit down, he can lay down, he can stand. I even had a client that used an area rug as a place once. So they're like, can that be placed? And I said, sure, but your dog would also have the ability to walk around because it's so big. It's just a perimeter thing. Okay?
Yeah.
So I've had people use ottomans, elevated dog beds, blankets, towels, kitchen mats, area rugs, anything that has a perimeter.
Should you use like the crate at all?
Technically, you could use the crate, it would just be like an enclosed place,
Yeah.
right? That you could lock up, but technically places go here, so you would technically not need to close the gate. He would know to just go in there, and unless given the release, his job is to stay in there, gate closed or not, okay? This, of course, is an unenclosed area, so more likely to try to push things, which you saw a little bit earlier. He went and positioned himself, and then right away put his paws off, so it's very apparent that he's like, Mom. And then I tapped him, he backed off, and then he tapped him again, and then you saw him kind of turn away and go more in a resting state, which is something to note. So like my Pitty Lexi, when she was a puppy, when I got her when she was 3 months, and I started in all her training right away. And I remember when she was a puppy, I would put her on place, and then I would leave, and I would come back, and she'd be like this. Okay, I swear to God.
Technically still plays.
Yes, technically, right, she made contact, she was very much aware that she was supposed to be making some sort of contact with the place, but she hadn't learned that place was your entire body is within this perimeter, okay? So, and I've only ever come across one other dog in my career that did the exact same thing, and it was also another Pitty. So, here, where this comes into play, is a number of instances. I wouldn't use it with the cat. What I would use it for is, like, let's say you go to a restaurant and you want to like take Gilmore with you, you want to go for brunch, dinner.
Yeah.
But the reason why I teach this first is, one, it's easier to teach. Two, it's less work for you to do in that setting, right? Because if I go to have brunch and I say Gilmore down, I now have to reinforce that down to that specific degree. Whereas if I just pop down a towel and I say Gilmore place, he can sit, stand, or lay down, he just cannot step off of the area. So it's less work for me to do, so I can enjoy that brunch or dinner in terms of paying attention to what he's doing, okay? So let's say you go to a friend's house and maybe Gilmore's getting a little bit out of hand, or people are trying to eat, like sitting down, he's going up to people like asking for food, just grab, you can have a towel or a placemat in your car or whatever, pop it down. Now you're keeping them out of everybody's way, okay? Now there's two aspects to that technically. So, because we have obedience and we have behavior. Think of obedience as physical control and behavior as mental or emotional control, okay? So, if I'm at my friend's house and my dog is going up to everybody begging for food, there's two ways about that. I could place her, and then she can't beg for food because now she's contained, but it doesn't stop the begging for food, okay, because that's a behavioral thing. So then the other option would be, I just simply correct her anytime she begs for food. So then she learns, okay, I can be around all these people, I don't need to beg for food, I just mind my business. So she learns to coexist within that context, okay? So for me, there's no right or wrong. The difference, the reason why you could use place there technically is because I'm not caring about coexistence, like in the video with the cat.
Right.
The issue with that was that they had a cat and they had a dog, and the dog wanted to go after the cat, so we need coexistence. Because realistically speaking, the dog is not always going to be there. The dog would be on his own time at some point. Whereas if I take my dogs to a friend's house, I'm not worried. They already know how to coexist. I just don't want them to beg for food.
Right.
So there's no right or wrong in my book. It's just how you want to approach it. Okay? So that was one means of going about it. Maybe go to the park, want to have a picnic, maybe not anymore, but you bring something with you, and I also have to use yoga mats. They pop down the yoga mat and place, the dog goes, right? It's that stationary control when you're not wanting to worry about Gilmore, and it's a little bit more lenient, so you're not having to worry about being so specific about it, okay?
Okay.
Questions so far about this?
There should always be like an object though that you lays on.
Yes, so like I wouldn't say place and send them here,
So that, yeah.
right? Because there's nothing there to
You
distinguish
wouldn't be
it.
able to figure it, yeah.
Correct. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could even be a t-shirt. It's just something that separates him and has a perimeter, and he can differentiate between this is an area and that is an area. Okay? And we think, if Gilmore do like sit or down or something like that, like I don't say place and then down or sit personally.
Yeah.
If I'm going for applicable function, I just say place. Because if I say place and then down, it's no longer a place command, it's a down command. So then I'd have to reinforce this specific positioning should he get up. And that, and clients in the past will forget. They'll place and down their dog, and then the dog will be standing up and like, you need to correct your dog. They go, why the wrong place? I'm like, because you said down. So it's not place anymore, it's down. Okay, your new command always overrides the old command. I don't say stay either, I simply say place. The stay is implied, and you implied it twice already by the one time when he overshot it, you tapped him to go back on, and the other time when you went over there, and you removed him to go back onto the place. So then he learned, oh, when I feel this pressure, I go here, it goes away. And if I try to sneak off, remote kicks back in again, but as soon as I go back, it goes away. And that's what creates the stay factor, okay?
So if he tried to sneak off right now, we should remote him then.
Exactly.
Until he, like, what, we have to say break for him to get off, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Break is the off switch, right? So even though we've not formally said place, the word doesn't matter to the dog. It matters to the human, right? But when you were tapping, and there's plenty of times where he clearly showed that he's associated tap means go here, right? And you know, I've been talking for about 5 minutes now, and he's not gotten up yet. Right? Now, if we all got up and left, that would be different because we're changing the environment. We're adding a bit more distraction and creating separation. But without any words and simply remote pressure, he's learned to go there and not move. Okay? Other questions?
Yeah, how do you just like initiate the different, like if you were to have a towel versus a yoga mat, like just throughout daily life, how do you just initiate like, this is where I want you to place?
Gotcha. So, let's say you have a bed in the living room, you know, a bed in the dining room, and like a mat in the kitchen. And you use them all as place. Well, he won't go home, and you can't walk into a bed and say place, and he'll just go, okay, you have to revisit this exercise a couple of times to create familiarity and connection of this is now a place, right? Same thing with the one, so you do something with the bed in the living room, the bed in the dining room, and the mat in the kitchen, okay? To start it off. And then once he's got that concept, then over the course of a week or so, as you're using it, he starts to associate what it is. If you're in the kitchen and you say place, because you're in the picture of the kitchen, he's going to default to that mat. He wouldn't most likely go to the one in the living room. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the same thing if you're in the living room, you tell him place, he's going to go to that area there. So anytime you incorporate or teach a new object as place, you have to revisit this exercise. Okay? You don't have to revisit it to this degree. It's just you have to present him to it, right? You have it on the ground and you start tapping, you know, place, tap, and he goes there. You do that 4 to 5 times.
Yeah.
He's now figured that out as place.
So if he's used to placing, if you're in the kitchen, he's used to placing on a mat, you can't say place and assume he's going to go to your master bedroom and lay down on his dog bed.
Right, unless you taught that.
Unless you, okay.
Yeah.
Was that like the guy with the different places in his house where you just say a certain thing and you would go to that place?
Are you saying that's a thing or is that doable?
Well, I thought that's what you were saying earlier with the guy that had like places all over. Where he said like he had different.
Or just say he needed place to go be upstairs.
Oh, I see what you're
He
saying.
was
Yeah.
like
From the distance, exactly. So he had one place,
Okay.
but the dog would send from anywhere.
Oh, that's the difference.
So that made it easier for him to send from anywhere because it was a consistent place.
Because he had one place.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong here. That's what he wanted, right? I get clients that have one in the bedroom, you know, have one in the living room, have one in the dining room, whatever.
I can see wanting one in my office or wanting one in the living room, like we're watching TV, and wanting one in the bedroom.
Yep. And you can even, you know, use the same one from the living room and take it with you and pop it in the office because it's the same object, you're just transferring it, right? So like I get clients that keep a towel or blanket in their car so that when they go to the patio, they just pop it on the ground and go place. And that's like their travel place. So you can do any of those things, okay? I just keep it consistent. Now let's say I did this years ago with the Yorkie. I had a place on every corner. And I taught that Yorkie to differentiate which place to go to because of how I was pointing, right? So if I said place and I went like this, he'd go to that one. If I said place and went like that, he'd go from that one to that one, so on and so forth, right? Obviously, nobody needs 4 places in the room. This is more so for like, I was learning and experimenting.
Yeah.
But you know, you could do that, like
Yeah.
where you could have more than one within the same space, but where the dog goes, you know, is determined by where you're pointing. Okay. The standard is pretty much people have one in different rooms, or they'll have one that they use and they just move all over the place. If you want to teach them a good concept of recognizing a specific object, if you always have it in the corner, right? And then one day you move it for like, let's say months later, you move it and you put it over there, and you're like, Gilmore Place, he's most likely going to go there. Because now it's not just the object, but the area that he's been going to for months that's become a habit, right? So then what I'll do is I'll move it around so that he learns to recognize the object,
Okay.
you know, and then you can send and he'll just go like, oh, there it is, and just go there, okay? Other questions?
I guess more about his anxiety. Like, when he was yawning earlier, is that when you said, like, recognize that he was feeling anxious, or?
That and the way he was, you saw how he kept shooting,
Yeah.
right? Like, get me there, that as well. There was a stress yawn, his intensity of wanting to go to the place because he wanted to avoid the remote.
Yep.
And also there was a couple of whimpers, and just, there was some things of him fidgeting kind of very quickly, and that was all telling me stress levels were up. And then when we went down from 22 to 16, I don't know if you saw, the send wasn't a panicked send. It was a passive, calmer send, right? So there's time and place for intensity and speed. The two things that I want that is recall and heel, okay? Because if we're building heel to off-leash level, it has to be, the dog has to be paranoid about your leg, because squirrels,
Yeah.
raccoons, rabbits, right? That stuff, you're trying to override that, so that's why we need that panic. And panic wants to move, okay? So for the recall, same thing, if I'm creating that speed or that, like when I call you, get your butt over here, I'm wanting more of that paranoid, like boom, I'm gonna shoot towards you. But when we do stationary stuff, panicked or paranoid energy isn't good, because then he's not able to relax, okay? So remote is very nuanced.
Yeah.
You know, we can create things through more power. I can create speed through more power. I can also create speed through faster rhythm, but same level power. So like I'll do, you know, tap, 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 to see if the increase in rhythm will create a boost in speed. Then I'll bump it, tap, 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 and repeat, right? Until I figure out what's gonna get me the result I'm looking for. Anytime we do stationary stuff, I almost always go down low, and then we will gradually work our way up. And we could have easily been up to 80 again, okay? But anytime we teach a new thing, we always go down low and then go up accordingly. And Gilmore will tell you what's right or not right. It's just recognizing and knowing what that communication is, okay? Other questions?
I don't think so.
One thing that people try to use this for, and it's not that it's wrong, but I'll differentiate for you. Like, let's say people coming over, is people use place so the dog won't charge guests coming into the home. So like whether they're overexcited or they're being territorial, is like, let's say if you had friends come over and Gilmore's just like, you know, happy and like jumping on them and stuff like that, that they'll use this as a preventative measure, right, to get the dog to like not do that.
Yeah.
Probably like the cat situation, like he's just ready to release.
Exactly. And that's exactly what you would struggle with, is that, like, let's say you placed Gilmore and he respected the command to the degree that people would walk in and he didn't break the position. Mentally, he's still as excited or escalated. So the moment you let Gilmore break, all that stuff that he wanted to do now is going to happen.
Now he's had some thought about it. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's why I told him, I said there's behavior, there's physical control, and then there's mental control. And the one that matters the most is actually mental control. Because a calm dog isn't going to just get up and shoot off running towards a squirrel. You know, a passive dog takes time to escalate before they're at that degree. Whereas a dog that's already stimulated and stuff is very likely that that's just gonna happen.
For that door situation, would you recommend like we have friends coming over, like them telling us ahead of them getting there and then us calling him up?
Mm-hmm.
And then giving him that sort of tap when he starts showing that excitement at the door.
So I'll give you a Band-Aid for now.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I'll send you a video that you would watch to learn the exercise, and then we kind of review it. Is you have Gilmore be free. Yes, he'd be color up, so friends are like, we'll be there at 5:30, 5 o'clock. He's ready to go. The doorbell door knock happens, and if he's like, for instance, just zooming around, I'd give him a couple taps right there, right, to settle him, because he's already clearly over the top.
Yeah.
And I don't care what he does. I don't care if he sits down, lays down, jumps on the couch, whatever. I just care that he just settles, okay? This is no words. Because the remote at that time is saying, I disagree with your energy right now. Then you'd open your door, your guests come in, they come with energy, hey, nice to see you, all that
That's
stuff.
most of the friends are just running over, hey, there's a dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, in my book, I tell people, like, please ignore our dog. We're trying to teach them, manners and all that stuff. Whether or not they listen is one thing, right?
Yeah.
Is I don't care if Gilmore greets them, right? I care about how he greets them. So, like, they come in, and he charges them, and he's jumping. Ideally, everybody would be stationary. So when a dog jumps, people are told to like turn their body or like go like this, right? Or like to back up. I don't do any of those things. Because if he jumps on you and I turn my body, yes, it removes Gilmore, but there's no real consequence. He lost balance. If I move back, I've now given up my space.
Yeah, he's kind of
Taken over.
Yeah, taking
Exactly. So I just stay put. I let him jump, and then I'm just tapping, and you go down low, 15, 20, because we're not trying to spook him.
Right.
And you work your way up until you see Gilmore remove himself.
Okay.
Okay. Once he removes himself, you might look, okay, 45, right? And then everybody just continues in as normal, and then the movement triggers him again. So then he tries to jump again, and you're moving him on, whatever it is, and he goes back down. And then you start to see him get more passive because the jumping isn't the problem. What's the problem?
It's more like his energy, right? Like
Yeah.
how he's
It's overexcited.
yeah.
It's the emotional or mental state behind it. So people, it's funny because, especially with positive reinforcement, everybody's like, my dog jumps on people, they need to learn to sit. And they go, sure, or you just teach them not to jump, right? Because like when I come in, I don't care that my dogs greet me and say hi, I just don't want them to jump,
Right.
right? So then, let's say he jumps and you correct him, he now has to find another means of greeting. Okay.
He used to jump on like me all the time, and then Lindsay too, but he doesn't do that anymore. It's more
Yeah.
like when our friend Maria or Connor or anybody else comes over, and all of a sudden he's like, he feels their energy.
Yeah, they're new to him. He doesn't even get up when I come in the door anymore. It's sad.
Sure, sure.
Um,
But that's partially because you didn't reinforce. I would think you didn't reinforce that behavior.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Because so if he's like, oh yeah, that's good. Because I get plenty of clients who are like, how do I stop jumping when I come in? And I'm like, well, do you talk to your dog? And they go, yeah, I miss them. I'm like, well, that's part of the problem. Okay,
so
because
just come in like any other, like,
That's what I do, and that's why he's always all over me. Well,
it's
like,
because you're
around
like,
me.
Gilmore.
Well, no, I do that sometimes. Most of the time I just walk in though and start talking to you.
so
he's like, pay attention to me.
So let's say, because at the end of the day, I don't care what people do with their dogs. I just make sure that they know what can potentially happen, and then they make the decisions, right? So like, let's say Gilmore, he's a pretty sizable dog, right?
Yeah,
So let's say you guys are like, no, we don't care. We like Gilmore to jump on us when we come home. Like, we're perfectly fine with it, right? Like, okay, cool. Your house, your rules.
yeah,
Because there's no behavioral issues. Now, if we had Gilmore and he had like dog reactivity and all this other stuff, I would say I highly discourage that because all that feeds into each other. Okay, so I play it by ear according to the dog's personality type and all that stuff. But then I tell you, well, if Gilmore can do that with you, when your guests come over, even if they're calm as can be, he's going to do it to them.
right.
So then we have to teach him, you don't do it with these people, but you can do it with us, and he will differentiate. He will learn, okay, I can jump on mom and dad, but everybody else is off limits. You can also teach him to jump on you by invite. you know, when you tell him to come up, and then when you tell him to get off, he also knows that as well. Because it would be unfair to invite him up, and then just out of nowhere start correcting him to get off of us, because there was no clear distinction of now we're done with this behavior, okay? So, the way I look at it is, if you want to eliminate something, you simply correct it with no warning, okay? So he's learning the behavior itself garners a correction, so if I don't want the correction, I don't do it. If you want him to jump on you, but you want him to get off, or not, I'm sorry, not do it on his own terms, then you would correct him when he jumps on you, but then, on his own terms, but then when you want him, you would invite him up, okay, Gilmore up, whatever, and then once you're done, you'd be like, Gilmore off. So there's a cue of now you need to remove yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? And then there's, you just don't jump on anybody at all. I don't care what people do, I just go, these are your options. Okay? Questions?
I guess more a question around heel. Like, how do we reinforce the term heel? Because like I heel right away when you buzz him, but like when you say heel, I don't think he like goes right to your heel right away.
I see what you're saying. So there's some trainers, maybe this is where it's coming from, will teach heel as a come to my heel.
Yeah.
Okay? They'll teach it as come to my heel, and then they'll teach it as now we're walking. Okay? I teach it as now we're walking.
Yeah.
Walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. The come to heel is what we call finish. Okay, and that's a separate term for like,
Okay.
you come here and then heel is now we're moving.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay, that makes more sense then.
Yeah. Because for me, the come to my heel, it's so.
Because he started to get break, I think the dog bark like really helped with his break, like I think with the prairie wolf and just
Sure.
like he was heeling like pretty much off the leash like mine the entire time.
Cool.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then using the stimulus of the park, like, hey, break, now you're free, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
It was hard to find the right stimulus, but I was like, that was a good stimulus for him.
Good. So yeah, you just need something that was very motivating. So with the heel, I've never ever even now it just triggers me. Is I'm like, heel can't be this and this for a dog, because it's two definitions for one word, you know. Because dogs are very simple. So I never got that. That's how I was taught traditionally, and I hated it. And then I trained with my mentor, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I hate that. I teach this as finish, and this and heel. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, that makes much more sense. It's two different things for the dog. So I think for Maddie with Rudder, she does both.
She does both?
She does heel and heel.
Maybe that's where we've seen it, because we've
Yeah.
gone to like Prairie Wolf with Maddie, and I think I kind of saw her heel, and Rudder came back to her
Mhm.
and walked with her.
Yes.
So that's like more recalls. Like
No, but also she'd say Rudder, or maybe just Rudder heel, and then Rudder comes, and then they walk.
I know, because she did a video for me here, and in the video she goes heel, and Rudder does pivot, and he comes into it, and she says heel and walks.
Yeah.
So that's how she learns and trains.
Mhm.
I use two separate commands.
Okay.
The way I would use it is if, like, Gilmore is on my left side, heel, because he's just going to shoot in. It's a very easy, just you're coming to the side.
But if he's way over there,
Come, right?
yeah.
You need the return. Maybe he lands here, and then you can do this, heel.
that makes a lot more sense. Because I was always imagining like when I say heel, like he'd be on my heel and we start going.
Right.
So it's more of a finish, like we're going.
Yeah, so the difference between
It makes sense how you trained it now, because it is go. It's go at my heel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so heel means walk at my heel.
Yeah.
That's where the term comes from. So there's two different ways. There's come, right? He's here. Sometimes he lands in the front, right, left, behind, sometimes in the middle. So if he landed on my right, all I need to do is get him to my left. So even if Gilmore is facing this way, right, and I called him, so he's facing like that, I just need to position myself here to him. So he's still facing that way, but he's at my left side.
Okay.
Heel, so then boom, it just becomes this, okay? Finish is come to me, and as he's coming, once he's like about that distance, I would say finish, and then he would come in, curve around, and lock into my left side and sit, and then we'd go into a heel.
Okay.
Okay? So that command is it's not like super advanced, it's easy to teach, but for the standard family pet, most people are like, what is that? And I'm like, it's this, and they're like, You know, most people are like, I just want the dog to come with me and say,
Yeah,
I say
follow
heel.
me. Yeah.
But if people want to learn it, I teach it, so. Other questions?
I think recall will kind of solve that, because I'm more thinking about like when we're out, like, I'm just imagining like the hikes around like Colorado, and the dogs you're with, and they were just out there.
Yeah, we just, I think after being in Colorado this last week, I think we want to do the off-leash.
Oh, I see, sure,
Like
yeah.
extend our training.
And yeah, those dogs were just, the recall wasn't the best.
Yeah,
Sure, for
they were
sure.
like 150 yards out, and we'd be like, no, like, where are you? We couldn't
Sure.
even find them for a bit. Like, a
Yeah,
period
just
of
talk to
time.
Maria, she'll get all that stuff squared away.
Okay.
So let's go ahead before we wrap up. Let's go ahead and grab Gilmore again. And we're gonna issue a word break. You wanna switch?
Yeah, I'll do it.
So, because Lindsay did good enough practice, and I'll give my that.
Hi, puppy.
And so here, you're not gonna say anything yet. You're just gonna pick up his leash. And we'll move it out from under his paws. Good. So here, I was anticipating Gilmore was gonna pop up and prematurely break. He didn't. That's good. But if he did, you would start correcting to bring him back, right? Because just because you're picking up the leash doesn't mean you're gonna release him,
Right.
okay? I'm going to issue the word break,
Break.
and we're gonna pull towards you. You can start moving.
Come on, break.
And away. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick up where Matt left off, but now you're gonna issue the word place prior.
Okay.
So, yeah, you walk a bit. Now, if he tries to charge there, you'll pressure.
Do I need that?
No, you're okay for now.
Okay.
Okay. And then go ahead and stop. You'll walk up to about this point right here, okay? Good. So now, before we do anything, now you're gonna cue the word place. Start, hold them. Oh, sneaky guy.
Yes.
Tries to take every inch.
You're gonna say place first, yep, and then relax, good. And start tapping. If we don't get a response after 2 to 3 taps, you'll keep tapping and then add in that leash pressure to direct them forward.
Okay. Place.
Tap, 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 like that. Very good. And a boy. And break.
Break.
Pull, pull, pull. You got it, bud. Go,
You
go,
want
go.
break? Come on.
Super sleepy today. Must be that, right?
He's like, I really like this command. Yep, you got
Come
it.
on.
Good, wait a moment, pause. Yep.
No.
hold.
Oh,
Go ahead, tap, 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 there we go,
You didn't
good.
even give me a chance, buddy.
I have another puppy that I'm working with, or I worked with, that's a black lab, and she was an extender, the exact same
Really?
stuff with him. But she would start barking because she'd get so frustrated, she'd
Oh.
let me go there.
So he's already
He's
looking
already pointing.
at it. Yeah.
He's
Okay.
So yeah, so here, it's okay if he's looking at it.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you noticed, when having you wait a little bit before you're doing your send, so that we don't create the pattern of stop, send, stop, send. So, we'll come to stop, we wait a few seconds, so then it's place, right? So that we don't create, every time you stop, he's gonna wanna shoot. And then the reason why you wanna always be relaxed is you don't ever wanna be physically restraining Gilmore.
Yeah.
You want him to be mentally present with you and holding that position because he's becoming aware of, I don't go until mom sends me.
Is she gonna fall asleep?
His eyes is fine.
I know.
Whenever you're ready.
Place.
Tap, tap, there you go.
Oh, was I not supposed to
You're okay.
send him the leash?
No, you got it, you're good.
Okay.
No, it's fine, it's okay.
Okay. Gilmore, break.
So now just reinforcing the shock with the
Come on.
word.
Correct.
Break.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, got some grumples out of him.
I thought that was actually thunder, that was him.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he was just grumbling a little bit. It was like a heavy, snore, wait. Oh,
Come on, I was almost there, Gilmore.
good, now wait a moment. Yep, 1 inches away. Let him chill for a second. When you're ready,
Place.
tap, 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 tap. Now, deep pressure, there we go. Yeah, boy. Good. Good. Break.
Break.
Good. Pull, pull, pull. There you go, yeah, boy.
Good boy.
Just close all your activity rooms and training.
Oh, good. No.
Distraction. You like places.
Place.
Now it's pressure. Yeah, boy. Very good. Let me check real quick.
Is it too loose, too?
No, I thought I saw like what looked like a ball on his neck here.
I hope not.
No, I
Like
think it's just,
the fur riling up.
yeah, it looked like a little, like bulb or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, break.
Break. Come on, Gilmore. Break.
Pull.
Break.
Yeah, boy. Okay, we're gonna do one more.
They're grumpy old man today, Gilmore.
Wait a moment. Yep. Okay. And pause, wait, tap, wait. Good. Yes, hold on for a second.
No.
Right, tap, and hold. That's good. Tap, hold, relax. There you go. Tap, relax. Good. Yes, pause. Wait a second. Yeah.
Place.
Tap. Yep. Very good. Right there. Good. And relax. Excellent. So, that last one took a little bit longer, but because you countered him so many times.
Yeah.
Okay. So we create confusion, and because I have like 3 other dogs that are doing the 12-week program right now, and I'm progressing them towards off leash.
Yeah.
Is the more we start to teach, the more problems we create. So especially when we transition to off-leash stuff, you start creating, as he learns more, just issues, because he gets to interpret the remote according to what's going on and the word that we've cued with it and paired with it. So that right there, because you're correcting like, no, don't go there before I send you, right?
Mhm.
Is then when you start to send him, he's like, well, I went there.
wrong before.
Right, yeah.
You know, so it's all part of the process, it's all normal stuff.
Just imagine like a 4-year-old kid talking back, kind of like.
Yeah, and this stuff gets frustrating too, because imagine like, as a human being told to like, sit and stand repeatedly, like you're gonna get frustrated. So here, that's why I said when you practice this with, on your own, 2 to 3 minutes at one time each, because it's redundant, okay? And I try not to digress whenever I make progress. So like you had a really good set because you're like all the way over here, which is on like 6 feet, 7 feet away, from the area.
Mhm.
So then like at home, when you pick the new object, you would kind of start a little bit here, but you'll progress very quickly to
Okay.
here, because he's already capable of it. Now you're just creating familiarity with the new object.
Okay.
For this week, when you're doing this, again, one time a piece, 2 to 3 minutes of the sentence, if you feel like he's mastered it, then I would just go to application, okay? You can start applying this as soon as you go home tonight. You can go
Okay.
home, pop on a movie, order some Chinese or something, send him to place, and what I would do here is, when you place him, have the object near you.
Okay.
Okay, so like, let's say this is a couch, this is the end of the couch, bed's here, Gilmore place, and then I can, step on the leash or have the leash on my wrist, whatever, and then we're just watching the movie, right? 45 minutes goes by, he gets up, starts to wander off, tap, tap, he goes back to watching the movie.
Okay.
45 minutes goes by, again, tap, tap, he goes back on. So then he's learning, when I'm here, if I try to get off, remote goes on until I get back onto the object. And that's how you're creating that long-term, don't move from here, okay? Everybody's life is different, so if it's like, yeah, we would love to bring them, to dinner and brunch and stuff, and that's like an 1.5 to 2 hour thing, then in the home, I suggest you practice to that degree and a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to compensate for the fact that at the restaurant there's going to be distractions, there's going to be sense, there's going to be sounds, and people talking to them, things like that. Is that when you push for longer, their patience get tested and they want to sneak off,
Mhm.
Then I correct them. So by the time you get to that point, you've already corrected them several times, that you're still going to correct them the first few times you go, but it's going to be a very fast progression, because he's going to be like, oh, this is like at home.
So I guess another question, so like, let's just say the waitress comes up, and is like, wow, this dog's so cute, I'm gonna pet him, pets him. Would we then reset, or like, how do you approach that situation?
Sure, so like, so if the waitress comes, right, she's like, oh my God, look at your dog, he's so cute, can I say hi, right? And they just pet him anyways. Is that technically, he can sit, stand, or whatever, he just can't leave the space, right?
Mhm.
So she's petting him, and even if he's wiggly, all I care about is if, when they pull away, does he follow, okay? Now, if you cued place, and he starts to break off, you wouldn't say place again, you would simply just remote him.
Okay.
Because even though it's the same word command, it overrides the first command, right? So the difference is, if I say place, he gets off, and I say no, place. He does not learn that getting off the place was incorrect. He just thinks it's a new one. So if I place him,
Oh, okay.
and he steps off, and I just correct him, and he goes, oh, when mom says place or dad says place, it's go here and don't get off, there's no warning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Until you break it.
Exactly, okay, and it's a tiny little detail, but it's funny how so many of my clients struggle with it, even like other trainers, because almost everybody repeats the command. They'll say no, or they'll repeat the command, and I go, I don't say no.
Until you say break, you're
there,
yeah.
okay? Because no acts as a warning. So then you're always saying no, right? Or place, you're resetting, it's the same concept. But if I just remote him for breaking position, he just thinks, I don't get off.
It's the same thing with like saying his name when you're healing or something. You don't want to do that because then
I say it once and I reinforce
he's
it.
just going to use that next time you can take that itch.
Correct.
Say it.
Okay? So that's just dogs. And that's not just personality type, that's just how their brains work. Which is why earlier I said, if you want to eliminate something, you don't say anything, you just correct it. And if you want to control it, you would say, Gilmore up. And then you'd have to cue off, to teach them, like, now I need you to remove yourself and not just remote them randomly. Okay?
Right.
So your homework for this week, you can start incorporating this now.
Okay.
You don't have to do like 3 hours every day. You do, 30 minutes here, you do an hour here. You just go with what you have throughout the day. Don't feel like you have to set up time for this.
Okay.
But for this stage, you're having the bed here, you're having the leash on. If you're gonna get up, you wanna release Gilmore first, then get up, do what you're gonna do, come back, replace him if you want, okay? What you don't wanna do is stand up, then break Gilmore and walk away, because then he's gonna think every time you stand up, you're gonna release him.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're preventing that pattern. I would not try to walk away from Gilmore, to grab something from the kitchen at this stage, because then you're gonna have to correct them and keep correcting them. We build to the degree of, okay,
The distance.
exactly, to all that stuff. This week it's always right next to you, you can move it, you're gonna be at the desk, you're gonna be at the table, you're gonna be at the couch or whatever. Have it right next to you, you can step on the leash, have the leash around your hand, whatever, which is nearby, so if he tries to sneak off and you remote him, and he tries to book it, you have something to grab onto to lead him back, okay? Anything else?
You can ask a lot of questions. I'm good.
Yeah, same.
Good. So pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then next week, hopefully we get good weather so we can start working on that outside. Otherwise, if for whatever reason it's still raining, I have a big, space in the back, but I figured I'd save recall for outside.
Yeah.
And so we'll
Good
see
for
how
all
it
those
works out.
squirrels out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teach you in the worst conditions you possibly can.
Okay.
Well,
Good job,
sounds
guys.
great, thank you.
You're welcome. And break.
Break.
Yeah, boy. And technically, if you break him and he doesn't move,